Yeah.
You go well.
So yes,
I'm
so
good
we
to
are
go.
live.
I'm good to go.
Yeah. So everybody is good to go, and we are live in Gaurav Ayyan's YouTube channel. And what a game it was! New Zealand at the very last moment couldn't hold their nerve, and last over from Daryl Mitchell. He conceded 10 runs, and it is another victory for India. Cricket coming back after 200 days to India, and finally, Indian team is finally ready to register a win against their nemesis, the New Zealanders. So I've got both my guests. I've got Adam, who is a cricket correspondent, who is a cricket writer from all the way from New Zealand, and we have got Michael Wagner. I welcome both of you to my show, Adam and Michael.
Hey, thank you.
It's starting to break up a little bit. Connection's not so good.
Yeah. Michael, what a game it was. I mean, I never believed that New Zealand would be stretching that game to the very last over. But for a moment, when the partnership was unbeaten partnership of Shreyas Iyer and a very good partnership with Rohit Sharma, Suryakumar Yadav, I beg your pardon, they both created a very good base. But at the very end, it was almost India would have given up. Only because of Rishabh Pant at 4,
Sorry,
finally
guys,
India managed to win.
The connection's not good.
I think that one of the things that I noticed is that it was a really easy pitch to bat once you were in, but it was really hard to get started. I looked across almost all of the players. I think Rohit Sharma was the only one that scored more than 12 runs off his first 10 balls. And in that, he also he should have been out in his second ball or third ball or something. You know, there was the catch that Guptil missed, and Guptil doesn't really miss catches. So once those wickets fell, all of a sudden it became a very interesting, difficult match. So there was a pitch like that. You can have a game that goes from looking really one-sided to being right on the line, and that's exactly what happened. So it was good to see that, but I felt New Zealand played some really sloppy cricket, and yet we still ended up, that was a poor performance from New Zealand generally, and yet we still ended up right in the match. So that was in some ways quite encouraging.
Yes, and so Adam, are you there? I guess the internet is buffering from his end. So, Michael, another thing, yes, definitely, you raised a very good point that New Zealand should be disappointed because batting was not their strength. Bowling was. If you look at the bowling, they had Trent Boult, Tim Southee, Lockie Ferguson, and Mitchell Santner. These four play every T20 for New Zealand, and on a very given day, and they had just one change. Ishodi was replaced by Todd Astle. They also wanted to check how Astle responds to this challenge, and how did you find his performance? Because he was suddenly when put under pressure, he couldn't respond.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with how Todd Astle bowled. I rate Todd Astle. I think he's actually a really good bowler, and I like. One of the things I like about Todd Astle is he's got about 4 or 5 different leg breaks. So he's not just got the standard stock single leg break. And that makes it really hard to pick his variations because his leg breaks don't always look the same. So you can't watch for it the same. And that meant that, things like his top spinner, you saw one that went past Yadav when he was, he thought it was a leg break and it was a top spinner. And, there was a couple of balls like that could have caused a lot of trouble. But he just wasn't consistent enough. I mean, he got his speed right. He was right on the money in terms of pace from the start, but he just didn't get his length right. And as a leg spinner, you've got to make the ball pitch and you've got to get your length right. Your line, it doesn't matter quite as much, but you've got to get your length right. And he was all over the shop with that. And that's a disappointing performance.
Yeah. So, Adam, how did you find the bowling performance of New Zealand?
Look, obviously New Zealand spinners, as Michael just mentioned, they weren't consistent with their line and length. In particular, Todd Astle, who looked like he hasn't played cricket for a few weeks, and I think that really showed. And there was that one over where he just could not quite get the ball in the right areas, and Yadav, hit him for a few boundaries. I think he definitely looked underdone. I think a positive for New Zealand was Lockie Ferguson, especially since he hasn't played for a few weeks now. I thought he bowled really well. He bowled with some good pace. We saw in his last over, he got his slow ball going as well, and was able to kind of keep New Zealand in the game as well. So I think that's a positive. Trent bowled well in his first over, but then we saw in his second over when he changed ends, he leaked over 20 runs in that over, and I think there was a bit of a turning point from there, because once they got that over under their belts, it seemed like they got a lot of momentum from there, and from then they were always in control in regards to the run rate. So, all in all, an average bowling performance by the Black Caps. Unfortunately, weren't able to really get wickets up top, and I think India really were in control of that match up until probably the last over, when they lost a few wickets in that last kind of like at the death, and nearly gave the advantage back to New Zealand.
Okay. Yeah, well said. So, Michael, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I thought Santner actually bowled quite well, as usual. We're sort of getting used to Santner bowling tidy stuff that's not really looking threatening, but is just keeps the batsman in check and just builds a little bit of pressure. And I think he did that, his usual sort of thing. I think what was it? Did he go for 19 runs?
17, 19, yeah. 4 overs, 19 for
runs.
1.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, against India, who are a pretty handy team, one of the things that he did really well, you saw Ashwin, when he started out, came in bowling about 95, 97 kilometres an hour and didn't get much out of it. It wasn't going so well. Then he slowed it, held it back to bowl at about 85 to 90 is really the zone that he found in, where he started getting the ball to dip and turn and cause problems for the batsman. Santner came in, was straight away. He normally bowls those sort of quicker ones, but he was straight in at 90 Ks and getting the ball to turn. And that was really, for me, as someone as a sort of spin bowling aficionado, that was really good. You've got to try and match your pace to the pitch, and he got the pace bang on right from the start. And I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah. As Graham Swan would say, poor man's Dan Vettori is Mitchell Santner. And Michael and Adam, I'll just go back to the first innings where New Zealand batted. And I just found that they were always in the game. But when their the late middle order was exposed, I just found that they were fumbling, and they couldn't. They couldn't achieve the score they wanted, because if you look at the first innings, Barton Guptil played a terrific innings. Daryl Mitchell got a beauty of a delivery. He was not in line of the ball. And how did you find Daryl Mitchell? Because I've seen 2 Daryl Mitchells. One Daryl Mitchell all at sea against swing. Another Daryl Mitchell just fighting it out, and against England, he was just phenomenal. And do you see him as a regular opener and someone who could take New Zealand cricket forward and can open in 2020, in 2022 next year in Australia? Adam?
Look, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Daryl Mitchell going forward. Obviously, he had a very good T20 World Cup, but opening is not his regular spot in T20 cricket. And we look at guys like Tim Seifert, for example, who's batting the middle order, who's probably best suited to opening the batting. I think Daryl Mitchell has a very good technique against fast bowlers. Obviously shown in the T20 World Cup that he's very good under pressure as well, and he's really a versatile cricketer. So he could easily open the batting, or alternatively he's some guy that could slot down the order and bat in the death overs as a kind of power hitter finisher. So in terms of whether he is New Zealand's ongoing opener, obviously they'll be up to the decisions to see what the makeup of the side and how they want to go about it. I personally would have Seifert up the order if he is in the team. I think that's his best spot. He's open for Northern District. He's been successful in that position. We've also got Devon Conway as well, who in domestic cricket opens the batting, and that's possibly his best position in T20 cricket as well. Glenn Phillips has opened the batting as well. I think in terms of Devon Conway batting in the middle order in the World Cup was possibly due to trying to combat the spin bowlers, because him and Kane Williamson are New Zealand's best two players against spin. So that's possibly the reason why he was in the middle order in the World Cup. So I think going forward, Devon Conway probably goes up to the top of the order with Martin Guptill.
What about you, Michael? Do you see Daryl Mitchell as a regular opener?
Uh, Look, I'm interested because they've obviously seen something in the nets that, because obviously the World Cup was the first time he'd ever opened in 200 odd matches. So, we don't know from what he's done and the other things how he'll go. I think it's very risky, though, to write him off as an ability to play swing bowling from one delivery, because that's all he had. He had one ball and he got out to it. Now, we've seen a lot of great openers get out to a ball that swings first ball. I mean, you can probably watch an entire highlight reel of Adam Gilchrist getting out in the first couple of balls when it swings. Now, no one's writing Gilchrist off and saying he wasn't a good opener because he had a weakness against swing first up. Everyone has a weakness against swing first up. That's just batting. So I think you don't want to write him off for that just yet. So I'd like to see a little bit more evidence before I said no. He's not. That was the World Cup was just a fluke. But he looked pretty good. I'd agree with Adam though. I think Seifert's probably a better fit there. And then although I'm saying that, I think Conway at 4 did give the team a good balance on trickier pitches. I'm not sure if you want to have Williamson and Conway both batting sort of a little bit slowly at 3 and 4 in pitches that are more high scoring. UAE was perfect, but not sure it will go so well on flatter tracks.
Actually, Adam and Michael, I was just analyzing Team Seifert. Why Team Seifert is not opening? I was checking the Crick Viz, and then I checked that Team Seifert actually has an ordinary record against fast bowlers. He plays spinners really well. That's why in the CPL he was batting in the middle order and finishing games. I just feel that he's kind of a player who can finish the game because at number 4, number 5, number 6, he has the leverage to go against the spinners. I don't know whether I'm correct or not, but I just feel that opening the batting may expose, because he bats like Brendan McCullum, and maybe he has a tendency just to a slight gap between bat and pad. Maybe that for that reason they're trying to maybe just use Team Seifert down the order. Just going forward, what an innings from the Hong Kong born, Mark Chapman. Brilliant innings, and finally he has come of age because he was playing terrific cricket in Hong Kong. Shifted to New Zealand, didn't perform really well for Otago, for Auckland, and then finally he got his moment, and brilliant innings from Mark Chapman. What did you think of Mark Chapman, Adam?
To be honest, I thought it was an incredible innings, considering again, like Todd Astle and Lockie Ferguson, he hasn't played cricket recently. And I'm not even sure when the last time he actually picked up a bat in a competitive game. So, look, I thought his innings was absolutely superb, and he struck the ball around the park well. He played Ashwin really well. The memorable shot for me was that shot through cover, the ball before he got out, unfortunately due to a cracker by Ashwin. Look, he's been really good in New Zealand domestic cricket for the last year or so now. He went through a disappointing season after he was selected for the Black Caps. He got injured, and I think that really derailed that season for him. But in the last couple of seasons, like, he's come back well. And I think that he's a guy that should be in and around the Black Cap setup. He's got a lot of energy. He's a very handy left arm bowler as well. He's got a great technique. He's very good in T20 cricket. He's actually done well in first class cricket over last season as well. So I think he's really maturing at this age. I think he must be 26, 27 still. So he's still a young man with lots of cricket still left in him.
Michael, 2 new IPL teams. Maybe somebody must be punting on picking Mark Chapman by the way he played today.
Well, I mean, he's given himself a chance, hasn't he? I'm not sure if anyone would pick him based on just one innings. Also, he was a bit slow to start out in that innings. He went at a Look, he probably batted well for the conditions, but he did hog a lot of the strike, and I think there was at one point he'd faced 20 balls and Guptil had faced 3, something like that. So there was he was very much dominating the strike, and that's not always a good thing if the guy at the other end's going well. So so you sort of have to look at that and go, well, there's still a few work-ons there with this game. I really rate him. I think he's a good player. But I think he's still got a bit to go before he's maybe going to be knocking on the door of an IPL contract.
No. And Michael and Adam, the biggest disappointment for me up until now is Glenn Phillips. Here is a man who has scored a bulk of runs in the CPL, then came back to NatWest T20 Blast and was amazing, hitting every English bowler out of the park. Reverse sweep six, video going viral, and then he played well in the 100, decent performance. Came to an IPL with a big performance, with a big reputation. The only man who has hit the maximum sixes in this year. And I just feel that somebody else is batting. He's like an imposter because the kind of knocks he has played in the World T20, and again today he is looking all at sea. I just feel that he has lost all his confidence. And what do you feel, Adam? How can he just get out of this mud? He has been stuck.
Yeah. Look, I'm a massive Glenn Phillips fan, and I've seen him dominate New Zealand domestic cricket, and I've seen him dominate the CPL. Look, I honestly believe it's down to the position he's batting in. Like we talk about the New Zealand opening slot and where players best fit for the team, and he's played most of his T20 cricket either batting as an opener or number 3. So that's where he's probably been more successful. I know in the last CPL he was batting in the middle order. He wasn't as dominant in the last CPL either, because we've got to remember in the previous editions of the CPL he was actually either top run scorer or very close to it. So I truly believe he's a better batsman coming out against pace earlier on. We saw against Ashwin, he really struggled, and was obviously dismissed for naught of 3 deliveries. And you could just see him really struggling initially, even against Australia in the World Cup final to some degree. You know, he struggled. Obviously, he got that 6 off Zampa, and it looked like he was getting away, but I think early on against spin, he really struggles. I think this is going to be a dilemma for New Zealand cricket going forward, because we've got a whole lot of batsmen who are probably best suited to the top of the order. And how do you organise those dominoes? How do you get the best out of each player? And I think Glenn Phillips is probably a victim of this. Obviously, he's a great striker of the ball, and I think New Zealand cricket have been trying to probably groom him as being a finisher at the death, along with the Jimmy Neeshams and Santner, and Seifert. You probably put this in that group as well. But I think at the moment he's really struggling just to find a consistent position in the Black Caps team.
Yeah, and Adam raised a very good point. Glenn Phillips struggling, and the way he got out, it doesn't give me good signs, because a test match is coming. He will be batting on number 5, I guess, most probably. And Ashwin, Jadeja, the turning tracks. Take it away, Michael.
I don't. Phillips isn't in the test squad, is he? Is
yeah,
Phillips?
He's there. Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, I don't imagine he's going to be playing though. I think Henry Nicholls will be. Like Phillips will be there as a backup, I would imagine. Look, he got out early, but again, lots of good batsmen get out early to a quality spinner when they come in the ball's turning. Yeah, that's it's really easy to if he got out for 6 off 10, I'd be a lot more concerned than getting out for none off 3 or none off 4. Yeah, he got a couple of good balls. He was undone early. That's cricket. You don't get too worried about that. The same with the Daryl Mitchell one. You get a good ball early, you get out. That happens, and the nature of cricket is you fail more than you succeed. I think it's interesting. Phillips has really worked hard on his fitness, and I believe he's doing 800 push-ups a day, and really working on his strength and fitness. And part of that was to try and hit more sixes, which obviously has been successful because he's hitting a lot of sixes. But I remember in a while ago in darts, it was darts is a sport that tends to be dominated by big fat blokes. And Phil Taylor, who was the world champion and had a big gut on him, went on a fitness bend and really went hard, lost a whole lot of weight, lost his size and got fit, and lost his skill because he was no longer, his balance was no longer right. And we've seen it happen a few times with batsmen who have lost a whole bunch of weight and suddenly no longer able to time the ball so well and no longer. And I wonder whether Phillips' change in fitness and body shape maybe is taking a little bit of time for him to adapt to. It could be that. I think Phillips actually is better batting at 4 and 5. I don't have a problem with that. I think his average and strike rate, when he bats at number 4, he averages 32 at a strike rate of 180. When he opens the batting, he averages about 10 at a strike rate of about 70 odd. So, you look at that and you say, well, it's, batting down seems to work for him. But, he got a good couple of deliveries. And sometimes you got to go, give the bowler some credit here. And Ashwin had gone for a bit earlier, learning how to bowl on that pitch, and he'd figured it out. And Phillips happened to be the one that copped that.
Yeah, and Michael, you really, while you were while you were describing the anecdote, I was like, yes, in 2003, the same thing happened with Inzamam ul Haq. You must be aware of how bulkier he was in 2003 World Cup. He came slim and thin and couldn't buy a run. I guess it was his poorest World Cup. Maybe Michael said the correct thing for Glenn Phillips. And moving on, the Indian. Let's talk about a little bit about India. Brilliant innings from we saw from Suryakumar Yadav and Rohit Sharma as well. How did you find Michael? They were good in patches, but overall, you'll be satisfied if you watch it from India's perspective.
Yeah, I think. Rohit Sharma is Rohit Sharma. He gave a chance early, and then after that, he was just awesome. And you know what you're going to get. He's one of the best batsmen in the world, and he showed it again. I think if I was from an Indian fan's perspective, SKY Kumar Yadav, he looked really good. He had the ability to get himself into positions that made difficult shots become easy shots, and that's the thing, that his footwork is so good that he manages to get in position early enough and then still face the ball with a still head. He's got the ability to go on and be a real superstar if that continues. I think Shreyas Iyer was a bit of a disappointment. He's a guy that I looked like he was going on to be amazing, and he's just sort of gone off the boil a little bit. Nope. Not sure if I'm the one that's out or if someone's out, but I can't hear anything happening here.
Yeah, neither can I. I think he must be. I think he must have.
Yeah.
He was back.
Yeah. So, Adam, how did you find the Indian batting innings?
Yeah, I don't really know. I can add to what Michael's summation is. To be honest, Rohit Sharma. What an innings, tremendous. And it was that over where we really got stuck into Trent Boult that kind of turned the game India's way. Once they got that over under their belt, they really had no run rate pressure going forward. And Yadav, we know that he's had a great IPL, and some of those shots were outrageous, and I think today he really announced himself on the international stage. I think India's going to be pretty disappointed about how they finished that match, to be honest. They should have really closed that match out a lot sooner than what they did, and they gave New Zealand a sniff right there at the end. So I think from India's perspective, look, I feel like they got a bit of the yips there in the last, 2 or so overs. Sure, Tim Southee bowled a really great penultimate over, but I think they really looked like they were feeling the pressure out there. So I think from an Indian perspective, I think closing up matches is going to be a focus for them going forward.
Yeah. And yes, brilliant. At the end, Rishabh Pant was there, and he played definitely some good shots. And looking at the bowling performance, India bowled really well, just pulled things back. When Guptil was going all guns blazing, just got the Guptil wicket, and then Rachin Ravindra and Glenn Phillips and Team Seifert in the middle just succumbed to the pressure. And Michael, how did you find the Indian death bowling performance?
Oh, Indian death bowling was really good, and they used the pitch well. They bowled good lengths, and it was good. I think it helped that Rachin Ravindra is just, I don't think, quite ready yet for international T20s. And also, he's someone who has always been an opener. At youth level, he occasionally batted at number 3, but he was an opener. And he was picked to do Jimmy Neesham's role. And he's the guy that plays lovely cover drives or beautiful flicks off his hip for one. That's his game. He's not a guy that comes out and smacks sixes over mid-wicket or, cover drives for over extra cover for 6. It was just the wrong guy for that role. And I guess the issue that they have is that with so many injuries and a limited squad, that's all they had. So that's who they went with. I think Ross Taylor is around though, and it might have been while they pulled Ravindra out of the squad, maybe out of the Test squad, maybe pulling Ross Taylor out of the squad might have given New Zealand a better option at the death. But maybe they're still wanting to give Ravindra a chance for the future, and there was the hope that if the pitch was turning, having 4 spinners or 5 spinners or however many you would have had with all the part-timers could have been handy.
Yeah. And Adam, how did you find the Indian spinners bowling? Because bowling with the wet ball is always difficult, but we saw how Ashwin tossed the ball up and he got that Mark Chapman wicket, and the way even Akshar Patel really bowled well, a very tight line and length. Did you think the two bowlers both bowled well in the middle and just didn't allow the New Zealanders to go for the big shots, Akshar and Ashwin?
Yeah, like absolutely. I mean, we saw then Guptil and Chapman were looking dangerous, and that over from Ashwin was absolutely superb. And just the way he was able to fight the ball, obviously with both those wickets, was pure deception. And just his ability to bowl the deucer, or the one that goes straight on, got Glenn Phillips in all sorts of trouble, didn't he? I think that like going forward, Ashwin needs to be in the Indian T20 side. It's hard to fathom how he didn't play in the earlier matches. I know Jadeja is the preferred option, but I think Ashwin is just more of a wicket-taking option than Jadeja, who tends to be a guy that's more economical, that tends to rely on being economical rather than being the threat. And I think in T20 cricket, you need to be able to take wickets in those middle stages, because if you don't, batsmen will load up and then can go big in the death overs. So I think you need to have wicket-taking options, and obviously Ashwin is that one. As well as that, he kept the runs down, as we saw. Patel, look, he's come into this match obviously after having a decent start to his international career. I mean, look at that start against England, where he got a bucket load of wickets, but obviously it's a different format. Apart from the 4 and the 6 that he conceded early on in the spell, like I think he was superb. Obviously, the ball getting a bit wet, it's harder to control the ball. Again, uses variations as flight and took the pace off the ball to really slow the New Zealand batsmen during the middle stages, I should say.
Yeah, and Michael, how do you see Rahul Dravid first assignment, India win? Do you find he's kind of a Mike Hesson kind of a mold, and he's a kind of a backstage performer?
No, I don't see the similarities with Hesson at all, to be honest. I think Hesson was a great coach because he'd worked his way up from coaching kids and then coaching the women, coaching juniors, coaching low level. He'd went and coached Argentina, I think, and he coached Kenya, and he worked his way up. He coached Otago. He became good at coaching by coaching. He didn't become good at coaching by playing. Rahul Dravid's gone in with playing experience. Like he's done some youth stuff and he has done some other coaching. But if Rahul Dravid wasn't a great player, he probably wouldn't have been picked as coach based on his coaching record. He's got a reasonable record. There's no doubt that but I don't see him like Hesson, where it was his coaching that really made Hesson get picked. And there's a guy coming through New Zealand as well, Glenn Pocknell, who is the same.
He's South African, right?
Coach from Wellington. And I don't see Rahul Dravid in that mold. I do, however, think he's got the potential to be an excellent coach. And he brings different things with the playing ability, experience, and that sort of thing. He's got enough skill and enough knowledge that he could bring out the best in the players. But I don't think I think maybe the comparison with Fleming is more appropriate than the comparison with Hesson. As far as New Zealand coaches go.
And if you look, Michael and Adam, those coaches who have taken New Zealand cricket forward, at one point in time, they leave New Zealand. For example, you've seen what Mike Hesson did. He served New Zealand 6 to 7 years, and now you're seeing the same with Gary Stead. Do you think Gary Stead will also be looking once he becomes a super coach, he will be leaving New Zealand and he'll be also coaching in an IPL franchise as well? And I've seen this with a lot of ex-New Zealand coaches.
Yeah, well, we had
Adam,
3 out of the 4. We had 3 out of the 4 in the IPL finals, didn't we?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I feel like IPL coaches are more reserved for ex-great players, isn't it? Isn't that like the one of the job description? Ex-New Zealand great players.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Adam, you said, yeah.
Oh, sorry, there's James Franklin. I mean, he's floating around as well. He's coached before, so he might be, he might be another one at some stage.
Yeah. And Adam, you said it's very hard to fathom how Ravichandran Ashwin is not in this. I mean, is not making the squad in World T20. And for Indian fans, it's very hard to fathom how Colin Monroe is not getting a gig in opening the batting while we are seeing the struggles of Martin Guptil. And I mean, Michael, I'd be really interesting just for the last question for all the Indian viewers. What's the future for Colin Monroe?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
If I was to select, Colin Monroe would probably be in the team. But there's a reason why I'm not a selector and these guys are. But yeah, I look at Colin Monroe and think that the one place that he has the best record in domestic cricket is, I mean, he's done well in the Caribbean, he's done well in New Zealand, he's done well in Australia, he's done well in England. But the place he's done really, really well is the UAE.
Yeah.
And the teams he's done really well against are the top teams. He's done really well against the top teams. And you look and you think, why was he not in our squad? But, you know, I think there's possibly some personality issues there. There's possibly just the think that he doesn't fit. It could also be that Gary Stead doesn't feel he can get the best out of him. And sometimes there are players that, you know, I'd been coaching. There's a guy, like I thought, this guy's a really good player, but I'm not getting the best out of him, and he's just not going well in my team, and I'm not sure why. Someone else maybe can get it out of him, but I can't. And it could be that Gary Stead's looking at going, the times I've had him, because under Stead, Monroe hasn't done nearly as well as he did under Hessen or as he did under Mark O'Donnell for Auckland. He's done much better for other coaches than he's done for Stead. Maybe Stead just thinks I'm not getting the best out of him. If I look at what he does for me, he's not a great player. And there could be something there to it. I'm not sure.
Adam, or else he needs to leave the studio with Mitchell McClenaghan and Laura McGoldrick. Maybe for that reason, Mitchell McClenaghan is also there and is better, right? I was watching the final analysis, and Colin Monroe was analyzing the game. He should have been playing against Australia.
I thought it was kind of funny that a guy that probably should have been in the T20 side, is, you know, like, is still actively playing and could easily slot in the team, was analysing the game. I thought it was funny. Like Michael, like, I definitely have him in the team, like, no doubt about it. You know, he had a really good PSL, you know, 3 or 4 months before the World Cup started. So yeah, I couldn't believe that he didn't make the side. I actually don't know if he's going to fit into the New Zealand squad going forward, because I think there's another young guy playing domestic cricket called Finn Allen, who's been knocking the door down. So I kind of think he's the next guy that they'll select. Look, I think there's a bit of a myth with Colin Monroe that he's a bit reckless, and that he gives his wicket away cheaply, and he's on a fire, and I think he's got a rhetoric, and I think that's probably the reason why he's been discarded lately, even though his on-field performances have been really good. Obviously, he's a kind of guy that can be very, very inconsistent, but when it's his day, it's his day. You know, and we look at the amount of international T20 centuries that he's got. I think he's got 3. I think he's only second behind Rohit Sharma. So, you know, like, he has proven that he can perform on the big stage. There's probably question marks as well whether he can do it against very good bowling attacks, and that's always also been criticism that's been aimed at him as well. But like, he performed, as I mentioned, in the PSL, and the PSL's got, you know, the highest standard of bowling in T20 cricket. So he's performed against international bowlers, against good quality spinners. So I can't fathom how he hasn't been selected. I think there's also been a little bit of a backlash to his decision to play in the BBL and to forego an Auckland contract. I think that possibly has gone against him as well. Politics, I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I felt really sorry for him there, because New Zealand cricket cut his contract, and so he was then on a very small contract for Auckland. And so he chose to take the BBL money. But in his deal, he was still eligible for New Zealand, and so he delayed his trip over to the BBL so that he'd be available for the West Indies series, and New Zealand didn't pick him because they were going to look for other options going forward. So he he took less money in the BBL to make himself available for New Zealand, and New Zealand chose not to pick him, and therefore he didn't get the match fee. So they cost him money there again, and it was just and they said, it's because he was going to be playing, he wasn't going to be eligible for the later series. So you pick him for the one he is eligible for. He because of the quarantine, he couldn't get back into New Zealand for the second one, but he actually delayed his trip over so that he'd be able to play for the first one. It was just, I just looked at that and I thought, well, that's just really unfair. There's no way that Kane Williamson would have been treated like that, or that that if he was stuck in a contract that he couldn't get back in the country, there's no way he'd get punished by being dropped for another series for as punishment for that. And that was, I just thought, I was disappointed by the way that New Zealand handled that.
Yeah. So yes. So what I have heard that Gary Stead said he was not available for Bangladesh and the Pakistan series. That's why they didn't pick him for the T20 World Cup.
He made himself unavailable after he got told that he wasn't going to the World Cup, no matter how well he did against Bangladesh and Pakistan. So they said, if you score 5 centuries, we're still not picking you. Well, at that point there, he said, well, I'll play in England and get a bit of money. If you're not going to earn anything, and what he's got the experience of is he's turned down professional contracts to make himself available for New Zealand on a match fee only basis, and they've chosen to rest him and not give him the match fee. So if you've got a mortgage to pay, you're gonna make sure that you make some financial decisions. And there's a point where being punished for doing that is disappointing.
Okay, then, guys, a lot of dichotomy regarding Colin Monroe's selection. And thank you so much, Michael and Adam, for joining us. I know it's morning; it's almost bedtime for you guys, and thank you for staying awake, Adam and Michael. Just brilliant. You have been, as usual, brilliant analysis. And guys, the next T20 will be starting on 19th, and it will be played on Ranchi, and we'll be also bringing you the review of the game. And any predictions, Adam? Just one word: India, New Zealand, second T20.
I'll say New Zealand will bounce back and make a victory.
Yeah, Michael.
Look, if we play as well as we played tonight, we'll get thrashed. But if we play it as well as we can normally play, I think we've got a good chance.
Okay then. We hope that New Zealand win, and it'll be a blockbuster in Kolkata on 21st. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining, and we'll come back next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Good night.
Catch you later.
Yeah.